What is shaken? Welcome to this episode of the Wind Up Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give it a like and subscribe or follow the show wherever you're consuming your podcasts. You can also follow us on any of our social networks. That's on YouTube, Instagram, the Book of Face, and the social network formerly known as Twitter. The handle on all of those will be at MTGA Wines. You can head to our website, mtgawines.com. Scroll down to the bottom of that homepage. You can fill out the little form there and submit questions, ideas, and thoughts for the show to dive into in future episodes. While you're there, you can also find out a little bit more about us, our wines, and all the goings-on that we have around the country and, of course, here in the Napa Valley. Speaking of getting up and over things, picking up where we left off last week, the hiding of smoke taint and stuff is just not hiding the actual problem, but hiding what we're trying to do to solve it is just so silly. It's just so silly. But it's just the old is new again. Let's just keep banging our head against a wall, trying to keep. It's that quote from The Departed, right? What do you think about? I think I treat feds like mushrooms, right? Feed them shit, keep them in the dark. That's literally that's how I feel. That's why I feel for you guys, because that's how you've been treated by the wine industry for a long ass time. It truly feels that way, and it's something that, man, I cannot get behind. But the next thing is, what we saw, and this was back in early December as well, talking about the study that we talked about in the last episode, that alcohol clearly, maybe not as bad as we thought, as long as you're just a relatively fit human being. Definitely go back and check out last week's episode. It's a great study, especially if you're in the alcohol industry. But this was also announced a little bit before that study, and this was a Food and Wine magazine. That's the article that I'm going off, although, this is something that is probably going to, a lot of other people reported on, and I hate this so much. I hate this so much, you guys. I hate it so much. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad, you guys. I cannot begin to tell you how frustrating what I'm about to tell you this is. And I've had a couple of months, 2.5 months to try to come to terms with it. I haven't. I hate it. It's the worst. But here it is. From Food and Wine, and you can check out the article. It's in the link to the video. It's in the link of the video. Don't you worry. It's there. So you can read it for yourself. Michelin's latest power move, rating vineyards worldwide. The renowned guide that shapes dining is now eyeing places where great bottles begin. The key points to this: Michelin is debuting a new grapes rating system to evaluate wineries worldwide, with the first distinctions for Bordeaux and Burgundy, go figure, expected in 2026. A dedicated team will assess estates on 5 criteria, including vineyard quality and consistency across vintages, setting what Michelin considers a new global standard. Producers are divided. Go figure, some value increased visibility and a state-focused approach, while others question the fairness and subjectivity of yet another rating system in an already crowded space. I can tell you that the last line and a half, that's where I stand. Just what we need. Another bullshit rating system to muddy the waters of what we do even more. So this is the problem with wine rating. It's been a while since we've had a good wine rating rant, right? If you want to go back to my first few episodes of this show, when it was clearly not as good as it now, because it's so much better. It's so much better. I'm being so facetious. I don't know. I haven't gone back and listened to any of my early episodes. If I did, I would probably jump off a bridge. I'm being facetious, but whatever. I'm sure they're terrible. Hopefully somewhat useful still for people that are getting into the show a little bit. But we did do a wine ratings episode, and I talked about why I hate them so much, or at least why I think their use is very, very finite, which I think is kind of the right way to look at ratings just in general, as very, very finite. And I hate to say it, but this is something that's we've done this before. Now, do the classifications of Burgundy and Bordeaux need to be redone? Sure, maybe, whatever. Because there are some really amazing wines that are being made that are outside the first, second, third, fourth, fifth growths of Bordeaux and the Grand Cru and Premier Crus of Burgundy. Right? Like there's some other good stuff to be had out there. And just because they don't fall into kind of these certain specific, very specific categories that were built and then not really reviewed since, although every once in a while there's like a push to try and it typically fails miserably. But we've done this before. Like this is not new. This is not exciting. This isn't changing anything. I mean, come on now. I will tell you right now, but this is also my like inner punk rock kid talking. This is like my counterculture. Like this is why I get crazy. Like you can't really. I've been wearing a hat, so you can't. The mohawk's not in full effect today, but maybe next time. Like the second someone says, "Oh, it has this many Michelin stars. Oh, it got this rating. Oh, this winemaker works there," and it's high power. Insert high powered consultant here. Actually, we're gonna get into that in a second too, because that kind of like leads into this. I lose interest immediately. I don't care. This is the thing. And I'm gonna use the elephant in the room for Napa. I'm just gonna do it. And because I had this conversation with somebody else a few weeks ago, I felt kind of bad because I laid into it a little bit hard. I felt kind of bad about it. And I have opinions and I talk my shit. I'm going to do a little bit of it here. But, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Beckstoffer, for example, right? Here in Napa, he's the largest landowner. He's got the 5 heritage vineyards. And let's talk about To Kalon for a second. And this was a long time ago. A long time ago, me and a buddy got into it because, he's like the best vineyard in Napa is To Kalon, period. And I go, no, it's not. And because, again, I like being divisive. And he's like, name a different. It's like, fine, what is it then? I'm like, it doesn't exist. The best there's no such thing as best in wine, and there's no such thing. It's a dumb thing to consider, because I've had plenty of wines, and I've had some very good wines from To Kalon. I'm very lucky that I've been able to consume some of those. I've had friends who have worked with those grapes. I mean, obviously, what Beckstoffer has done for farming in general and pushed some things forward, some of that's been great. There's also been some really shady shit that's happened in the past, and I can't forget that or put it aside. Like, I can't just throw that out with everything out, with all the good. Like, you got to take the good and the bad, and there you have the facts of life, right? That's how it works. At least that's what I was told. So, and you can go back and listen to that other episode. I'm not going to get into, too far into like why I think, these things are irrelevant. Go back and listen to the other episode, because it's from very early on. You're going to have to scroll for a little bit on our YouTube or through kind of our podcast feed to find it, but it's worth a listen if you really want to be interested in what if you're really interested about like kind of the insider's view into how these ratings work, number one, the politics involved, and why their usage, in my humble opinion, is very finite. This is just like, what is this accomplishing? Like, realistically, like I would love for some of you to do this for me. And I know this is a big ask. I would love for you, whether it's in the comments or getting a hold of me, through our website. If you go to our website, mtgawines.com, scroll down to the bottom. There's a little form there that you can fill out if you don't know how to get a hold of me. Give me your opinion on this. I would love to know, from like a consumer outside the industry point of view, is this going to help you? Is a new Michelin guide for wineries really going to help you? Like, is it going to, do something for you that any other rating system or personal recommendation from a friend or maybe another winery professional can do? Like, is this something else? I mean, obviously, people are split. There are going to be people that are all for it because they think they do really well, and compared to some of the big guys and the elephants in the room that have the high ratings and reviews, this is kind of their chance to get into the fray and shake things up. Then there's some of us, of course, that are like, this is just another bullshit like marketing grab. It is dumb. I think it's dumb anyway. Oh my God! Actually, now as I'm reading this, there's a friend of mine that did a TikTok on what this means, and stuff like that. I'm gonna have to hit her up and see if we can sit down and talk about it. Anyway, let's move on. So it's completely lost my train of thought. As I'm scrolling through the bottom, like all of a sudden, like her TikTok popped up. I'm like, oh, she actually did like a thing on this, but it's more so like explaining how these stars, or apparently these grape clusters, are going to be awarded. Whatever. I mean, if you write in and you say, hey, this is something that would be super cool. It would help us, in the sea of wineries and things around the world, places to visit. Like if this would help us narrow that scope, we think that would be helpful. Okay, cool. If you guys think, as consumers, if you think it would be helpful, then great, let's do it. We won't be participating. I'll tell you that much. In fact, the HBIC, we were talking about this today, actually, because there's some opportunities to get our wines in front of through the Napa Valley Vintners. Actually, they do a great job of kind of courting like media and trade and stuff like that to taste wines. And I think there's a current opportunity to submit our wines to be reviewed by, like, I think Lisa Peretti Brown, James Suckling, Jancis Robinson might have been in that mix as well. There was somebody else, maybe it was Alder Yarrow. I can't remember. And kind of an opportunity to be like, hey, here's kind of a fast track to getting your wines in front of these people. And my first gut reaction was like, nah, don't do it. And then she's like, well, there's a couple of them that are doing like a Merlot focus, and Merlots are a thing. Like, this is, how often does this really happen? Like, Merlot's going to get some time in the spotlight. And I still go, no, not interested. And I deferred to her because she is kind of our marketing events and NVV kind of liaison. I'm like, I'll tell you what. Find out more information about what they're doing, what the article is going to contain, what it's going to be about. Is it more of a profile? Is it more of just a casual, like, hey, here's kind of where the state of Merlot is? That's fine. However, I'm still standing my ground. I'm like, if there's going to be a rating attached to our wine, we're not interested. They're welcome to try it, but if there's a number attached to our wine, we're not going to participate. Because I don't play that game. I just don't. I never have. If I'm consulting for somebody and they're a client and they decide they want to get the wines rated, that's on them. That's fine. For my own stuff, like, this is a red line for me. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just not going to play this game. I'm just not going to. Come on, man. Like, just stick to the restaurants. I'm not trying to do like a shut up and dribble moment here, because that was douchey. Like, that was terrible, right? It's okay for people to have opinions on things, but like realistically, I don't see how this is beneficial to the industry. Like from a Like, there are already hundreds of people trying to provide their own 2 cents about what wines we should be drinking as wine consumers. Like, what is the Michelin Guide going to tell me that my next best friend it hasn't or won't, right? I just don't see where the value is on this. I mean, although I'm sure there are. I do pay attention to, like, if we're traveling around and I don't know we're looking for a really nice dinner out or something like that, and the Michelin Guide pops up and you're like, okay, it's recommended or it has a star or 2. I'm like, all right, number 1, I know where the price tag is going to be. Number 3, I know there's kind of a hierarchy of how this is achieved. Now, I think the difference, but the same goes with restaurants, is that I've talked to plenty of people that have gone to French Laundry and not had a good time. And that's an expensive way to not have a good time. If actually, this is a fun thing to do. If you haven't done it, go on to Yelp or TripAdvisor or whatever, and look up like the French Laundry or any 3 Michelin star place, Alinea. Did Per Se have 3 stars at one point? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Go there and like sort by bad, like look at the bad reviews and look what people complain about. It's hilarious. It's the funniest thing in the world, because it's like, wow, these people are actually insane. Like, this is where insanity lives amongst the finer things in life. Like, it's some of them are warranted. Like, there's a couple in there that you're like, oh, okay, like, that's a little rough, especially if you're paying this much money. Got it. The overwhelming majority of them are like, you just didn't like it, and that's fine. Like, it's okay to not like something. Do you feel bad about spending that kind of money and not liking something? Sure, but that's the risk you take, right? That's the risk you take. That's why, like, when you're spending a lot of money on wine, hopefully you get to have some sort of experience at the winery with the winemaker, with the owner, whatever, something so that you can, have an idea that, hey, there's a really good chance I'm going to like this. A friend shares a little bit with you, the same winemaker makes wine for another label that you really enjoy. Maybe there's some sort of connective tissue that binds it together, right? Otherwise, if you're flying blind, if you buy something or go to a restaurant and you don't like it, and you spend a lot of money, that's kind of the risk you take, right? Like, is that weird to say? Is that a bad opinion? Is that a bad take? It doesn't seem like it. That's the chance you take. Like, if you've never been somewhere before, if you've never eaten that food, if you've never had that wine before and you spend money on it and you don't have perspective or an understanding of what it's going to be and you don't like it, I think you just have to be okay with that. You took a shot, it missed. Move on. Like, I don't know. Like, is that weird? Like, is that a bad mentality? Like, there have been a handful of things I've done in my life, more than a handful of things I've done in my life, where I'm like, this wasn't worth the money. Coachella, for sure, one of them. Don't need to do that again. That was a waste of time. The shows were fine, whatever. But, no. I'm not into that scene. It's not my thing. Absolutely not. I'm trying to think of one other thing. I'm incredibly frugal. I don't spend money at all. Like, it might seem that way because we're like in this industry and the food and the wine and all the things. I don't spend a lot of money. I save like a pack rat or whatever. I don't know what the analogy is, but I save like crazy because I don't need to spend money on stuff. I don't own stuff. Like this sweatshirt, like what I'm wearing, like there's actually the shirt I have is a hand-me-down. I'm literally wearing sweats from Gonzaga from when I was there right now. They're still there. I wash them regularly. They're fine. The socks I've had for years, the slippers I have for years, these hats we bought like 6 or 7 years ago. The glasses I'm wearing are actually, the watch I have on is from when I was 18. The glasses are like the newest accoutrement to the look right here. And these were bought last year and they cost me like $60. All right. Very frugal. So when it comes to, but that's just how I operate. That's a bit of a tangent, but that's how I operate, right? So in that way, when I go to spend big money, it's like, hey, it's going to be more of an educated guess. When we were in Florida at the beginning of January, and it's an opportunity to take the HBIC to Burn Steakhouse for the first time, I'm like, I'm saving up some cash. We're going to go there and we're going to have one hell of a dinner. And that we did. It was very expensive and worth every single penny. But I had been there 3 times before and I knew what we were getting into and how to work it to make it worth it. Right? Because I'm sure there's people that go in there and they order something kind of casual from the by the glass menu from a brand they know. They have, and the food's fine. Like, is it the best steak you ever had? Maybe, maybe not. Like, it's a good steakhouse. The dessert room's where it's at. That place is ridiculous. The Bananas Foster, whew. Knock your socks off. And that Armagnac selection, stop it. It's so good. But you still want to know how to get around and through it and stuff. Point being, that experience goes a long way. And if you have no experience, you're just diving into something blind. If you don't like it, move on. Move on. You took a shot. You missed. It's fine. Move on. That kind of connective tissue that I mentioned of find something common within that restaurant, whether it's a chef, within wineries. Is the same winemaker working for, multiple properties? And this is something we talked about after actually Premier Napa Valley. If you listen to the episode a little while back, we talked a little bit about Premier Napa Valley a couple episodes back. We talked about Premier Napa Valley and what it was. And there's actually an article that was done after last year's, I think it was 2025, that talked a lot about, consulting winemakers in particular. And it was a Melka tasting that was going on. It's Philippe Melka. You guys can Google him. He's a very well-known, respected winemaker and a nice guy. I've interacted with him a handful of times. Don't know him well by any means, but nice guy. He makes a lot of wine for a lot of people. A lot of people. And what's interesting is that this article talked about one of those wines is right around $100 a bottle. There's another one that's around $800 a bottle. And her question, which was very poignant, but I think a good question to ask was, is this wine that's $800 a bottle, is it really 8 times better? I think that's a fair question. And some people are going to certainly say yes. Some people are probably going to say no. But that's because it's subjective. That's the point. I mean, you can kind of do this like Mad Lib, piece it together, right? When it comes to wine. And I got to give a shout out to a new friend of ours, Hunter, who's out in Texas. We got to talking about this, when it came to wine specifically, about kind of, where wine has gone and kind of where these ratings maybe have taken it. And I think the Michelin guy diving into this phrase is going to take it further this way, is that like the wine industry, for a lot of new blood in the wine industry, it's, insert, I made a lot of money in this X prior career, right? I bought property in X wine growing region. I hired Y consulting winemaker. I buy fruit from Z, famous grower, and we make our wine at, A, famous winery here. Right. And just and like pick the big names, and like just Mad Lib it together, just piece it together. And that all these folks that are kind of like new to the industry have kind of just done that. Like there hasn't been a lot of and to his point, and something that I agree with, is that it doesn't seem as though there's been a whole lot of creativity, that there's a lot of people kind of chasing the same dragon, and they don't even know what that dragon is necessarily. But they're all kind of working in and around this same group of people and vineyards and locales trying to achieve the same, say, 100-point thing, right? Or 5 grape cluster thing. Is it going to be 5 or 3 grape clusters? Is that what is it really going to be grape clusters? There's a new grapes rating system. I'm assuming they're just going to do grape clusters, which is hilarious. This is literally like a little kid thought of this. Like this is man, I probably offended somebody with that, but whatever. So it is like, it does feel as though, these rating systems and kind of these reviews, I mean, they certainly cater, I think, a little bit more to folks that do that, because every one of these people will or any one of these people, but I mean like rating systems will have kind of like the criteria that they hold most dear. This is why certain wines will rate really well in one, publication and not so well in another. And as a winery, what you'll do is submit to a bunch of these folks and say, hey, what do you all think? And then if you get an 89 in, X publication, but in Y publication you get a 94, you cherry pick the 94 and you say, hey, we're promoting this one now. Like that's literally how it works. That's literally how it works. And after a few years of doing that, you understand which media moguls, or whatever, like your wines, and you just submit to them on a regular basis. That way you have a pretty good chance of getting the highest ratings possible. It's a rat race. It's a total rat race. And it's like, come on, like really? We have, I'm thankful, we have it's interesting actually. It's an interesting perspective. And I guess I'll try and play a little bit of my own devil's advocate here, because we have my sister-in-law just started working in the last year or so for not a new brand, but a brand that's actually been around for a while. But they just, very recently got their first 100-point wine. And you'll see this kind of in November, December, maybe early January. You'll see kind of a flood of wineries promoting their new highly rated wines, because that's when they get released. And number one, it's okay, clearly the wine's good. Someone thinks it's very good. Arguably one of the better wines they've had within that calendar year, which is outstanding. That is, a wave that they're going to be able to ride for a little while. They have a very high-powered winemaker behind them. Their wines are being made at a really great facility. They're sourcing from some really amazing vineyards that are literally down the street from, literally, you could walk to Screaming Eagle from there. They're down the block, right? So, they've again, started, have done well, started great label here, hired this winemaker, buying from these vineyards. Let's make 100-point wine. And they've achieved it. So good on you. If that was your goal at the start, then okay, great. I think there's the newer label, Fairest Creature, I think it is. That's the reason that label was started, because you have the likes of, I think, Thomas Rivers Brown, Philippe Melka, and Benoit Tokay making a few different wines. And then Michel Rolland, one of the, of course, more famous wine blenders ever, will blend combinations all three together for kind of, what this top end wine is supposed to be. So, and the gentleman, from what I understand, who started that process really was like, I want to make the best wine the world's ever known. And voila, hire all the best people and let's do it. There's something to be said for that. You look at, let's use sports, for example. There's a reason why certain coaches are just so in demand. There's a reason why certain players are so in demand, because there's just an X factor about them, right? So that can certainly be true of wine, that, if you hire certain people and do certain things, you're more likely to, you're more likely to probably have a, all-star wine, right? To continue using the sports analogy. But the difference for me between sports in this equation and wine is that there are a lot of numbers that back up sports. Your wins and losses are a great one, for example, right? Because you could be a really great guy, but if you're going, 6-12 every NFL season, or however many games they play now, 4-12, is it 16 games or 18 games? I can't remember. It's too many. Also, am I the only one that thinks it's silly that all these NFL records are being broken? There's like 18 games in the season now. I'm like, dude, some of these records were set back when there were 12 games. Like, come back to me when you do it, like, in the right time frame. Like, let's make a little note here. Like, is that crazy to ask? No one, I've never heard anybody address that. And I think it's silly that it's not. Anyway, it's at a certain point, the numbers do start to matter. And in wine, they just don't. You can make a quote-unquote perfect wine by the numbers, and it's going to taste like trash. It's not a by-the-numbers industry. I mean, for some people it is. I get it. But it doesn't have to be. And it very regularly isn't. I can tell you this. There's not a single... I've been in this valley a long time. I do not know a single winemaker, even the ones who have gotten big-time scores, I do not know a single winemaker who gives a shit about the ratings they get. None of us. I don't know a single one. I'm sure there's someone out there that really does, and they pride themselves on highly rated wines. No harm, no foul. This is totally anecdotal, but in 40 years of being from this place and making wine for 16 of those and being in and around this industry, from the time I was smaller than this desk to now, I don't know. I do not personally know a single winemaker that cares about the ratings they get. All of them are just trying to make the best wine they can. And whether or not they get a pat on the back for it is, they just want to be happy with their product. So take that for what you will. That can certainly be part of it. I think that certainly should be something to consider, is that it is very much a marketing system that was created by a very powerful wine consumer in Robert Parker. He's the guy who invented the 100-point score, right? And certainly you had, events and things around the world. You have like Premiere in Bordeaux, where they're kind of going through the vintage and tasting futures and and kind of rating the vintages as it's coming. There are things that happen all over the place. And ever since, the Parker kind of revolution, I mean, you have a ton of people trying to dive into this rating game in this space, but it's only really going to matter if you find those ratings or reviews remotely helpful. And again, that's entirely subjective based on your own taste buds. So, I just don't see, long story longer, I just don't see how adding one more rating system to our industry does anybody any favors. I mean, good on them. I hope I guess, maybe it's in 2019, the Michelin Guide acquired Robert Parker's Wine Advocate, which will remain a separate entity and will continue to review wines using Robert Parker. So what's the point? Wait. I didn't even see this part of the article. Hold on a second. In 2019, is this true? The Michelin Guide acquired Robert Parker's Wine Advocate, which I cannot pronounce that French name, says will remain a separate entity and will continue to review wines using Parker's 100-point scale. So what's okay. This is literally like buying the Bible And then, okay, we have the original one. Like, this is the OG, like, first edition, but let's go buy a Book of Mormon anyway. Let's go write a Book of Mormon anyway. Like, what are we talking about here? You have the Wine Advocate. What do you need your own scale for? Oh my God, I didn't even see that in the article before. I literally just kind of like randomly scrolled down and saw that. Don't worry, the article is in the link to the video. You'll have to check that out for yourself. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This makes no sense. It made no sense for me to begin with. It makes less sense now knowing that acquisition happened. That's too funny. This is why the wine industry is just, we're literally a dog chasing our own tail. Like, sometimes we're just so dumb. We just can't figure it out. And at some point, I think that there are a lot of us kind of in the underground that are trying to change a lot of these things, that are trying to say like, hey, let's just talk real shop. Let's go back. I mean, we mentioned it in the last episode, actually. We talked about, smoke taint, like people not wanting to talk about it. Like, let's talk about it. Let's air the dirty laundry. Let's get it all on the table and let's really see what's going on here. I think that's going to be the most important thing that we as an industry can do. Inserting another rating system into the mess is just not going to do us any favors at all. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Wind Up Podcast. I'll be back next time to continue the conversation. Until then, be sure to like and subscribe to the show. Follow us on our social networks. That's YouTube, Instagram, The Book of Face, and the social network formerly known as Twitter. The handle for all those is at MTGA Wines. Submit topics for the show on our website. That's mtgawines.com. Just scroll down to the bottom of that homepage and you'll see the form to fill out and submit questions our way. Until next time, have a great day, week, weekend, month, whatever the case may be, and we'll see you next time here on the Wind Up Podcast. Cheers.